In the mid-1990s, on a hilltop in southeastern Turkey, archaeologists uncovered something that would challenge every assumption about the birth of civilization. At a site now known as Gobekli Tepe, they found vast stone circles of T-shaped pillars over 16 feet tall and weighing several tons. Radiocarbon dating soon revealed to be more than 11,600 years old, making them older than Stonehenge, the pyramids, and even agriculture itself. When those implications became clear, the reaction wasn't celebration. If nomadic hunter-gatherers could organize the labor, engineering, and cultural continuity needed to build something like this, then our entire timeline for how and when complex society emerged is off by thousands of years. Several archaeologists began complaining that certain interpretations of their findings were being actively muted or rewritten. One German researcher died under murky circumstances after voicing those concerns, and multiple unpublished papers tied to the site reportedly vanished from university archives. Instead of closing the case, Gobekli Tepe had opened a door that some people suddenly seemed very eager to slam shut. Early excavations revealed evidence that made the suppression even more urgent. Subterranean chambers filled with sophisticated tools, polished stone vessels displaying advanced craftsmanship, carvings depicting astronomical configurations that didn't match the sky of 10,000 BC, suggesting knowledge of much older celestial cycles. These details quietly disappeared from later publications. One local worker reported that a chamber containing human remains arranged around a circular stone basin was sealed off on direct orders from international authorities. The nature of these remains and why their study was blocked remains classified. The most disturbing aspect of this site isn't what was found, but what was done to hide it. Unlike ruins lost to natural erosion, these monuments were intentionally buried under hundreds of tons of soil and debris. Someone in the distant past invested enormous effort to completely erase this place from human memory. The level of concealment suggests fear, a civilization so advanced, so threatening to future narratives, that even their own descendants sought to bury all evidence of their existence. What knowledge did they possess that was deemed too dangerous to preserve? The systematic suppression continues today. Access to the site remains heavily restricted. Independent researchers face bureaucratic obstacles that seem designed to prevent serious investigation. The official interpretation emphasizes the monument's religious function while downplaying their technological sophistication. But the evidence speaks for itself. Precision stone carving, advanced astronomical alignments, coordinated construction requiring specialized labor and long-term cultural planning. These are not the achievements of wandering hunter-gatherers. These are the signatures of a lost civilization whose very existence challenges the fundamental timeline of human development. Moving from the sands of Egypt to the depths of the North Sea, we encounter perhaps the most systematically suppressed civilization of all, a drowned world that connected ancient Europe in ways mainstream archaeology refuses to acknowledge. Today, the North Sea appears as nothing more than cold, grey water stretching between Britain and continental Europe. But beneath those turbulent waves lies Doggerland, a vast stretch of fertile plains, forests, and river systems that thrived during the Mesolithic period. Officially, this drowned landscape was home to small nomadic tribes. Unofficially, according to classified sonar scans and suppressed research, it contained something far more extraordinary. The first hints of Doggerland's true nature emerged in the 1930s, when fishing trawlers began pulling up sophisticated tools, polished stone axes, and worked timber that displayed advanced craftsmanship far beyond supposed Mesolithic capabilities. But the real breakthrough came in the early 2000s, when oil and gas companies mapped the seabed using high-resolution sonar technology. The scans revealed geometric stone patterns buried beneath marine sediment, long linear alignments, circular formations, structures resembling ancient causeways, enclosures, and standing stone circles. Some formations stretched for kilometers across the seafloor, suggesting coordinated construction on a massive scale. The public never saw these scans. They were immediately classified under corporate confidentiality agreements and national security restrictions. Energy companies claimed the information was commercially sensitive, but the breadth of the suppression suggested something far more significant was being hidden. A marine archaeologist who briefly collaborated with one of these corporations later described a concentric stone ring nearly twice the diameter of Stonehenge, with upright pillars lying toppled in the same direction as if destroyed by a massive tidal surge. He spoke of geometric precision that indicated advanced understanding of astronomy and engineering. After making these statements publicly, he was removed from the project. His research notes were confiscated. The images he described have never been released, and attempts to obtain them through Freedom of Information requests have been denied on grounds of national security. What makes Doggerland so threatening to established narratives isn't just its age, potentially dating back 10,000 years or more, but its sophistication. If the stone alignments match lunar and solar cycles, as preliminary analysis suggested, then the people of Doggerland possessed astronomical knowledge thousands of years earlier than textbooks allow. Even more unsettling, the structures appear interconnected, forming a symbolic landscape that may have guided seasonal migrations, ritual practices, or early scientific observations. This implies not just advanced knowledge, but cultural coordination across vast distances, the hallmark of true civilization. The flood that ended Doggerland was catastrophic beyond imagination. Around 6,200 BC, a massive underwater landslide triggered tsunami waves estimated at 60 feet high. Within days or weeks, the heart of this ancient world was drowned forever. Survivors fled to what became Britain, Scotland, Denmark, and the Low Countries, carrying with them myths of a world swallowed by the sea. These flood myths echo eerily across northern European cultures, tales of sunken kingdoms, drowned temples, and stone circles beneath the waves. But rather than investigating these consistent traditions, mainstream archaeology dismisses them as primitive superstition. Attempts to explore Doggerland independently have faced relentless bureaucratic obstacles. Governments claim the seabed is too dangerous for archaeological investigation. Corporations refuse to release detailed mapping data. Academic institutions dismiss obvious artificial structures as geological coincidences, even when sophisticated tools are found embedded within them. The systematic suppression of Doggerland research represents more than academic politics. It's the erasure of Europe's earliest monumental architecture, buried beneath waves and institutional denial. But the engineering marvels of South America pale in comparison to what lies hidden beneath the shifting sands of Egypt, where evidence of a civilization older than the pharaohs has been systematically erased from public consciousness. Before the rise of dynastic Egypt, before hieroglyphics, before the Great Pyramids, there existed a sophisticated culture in the Nile Delta, so advanced that even early Egyptologists whispered about it in private correspondence. This forgotten civilization possessed technological capabilities that made later Egyptian achievements seem like pale imitations of greater works. The Nile Delta presents unique challenges for archaeologists. Annual floods buried successive layers of human habitation beneath meters of fertile silt. But in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, before political considerations constrained research, explorers uncovered artifacts that shattered accepted timelines. Stone bowls with machine-like symmetry that seemed turned on invisible lathes. Copper tools of purity and hardness far beyond what early metallurgy should have produced. Basalt vessels whose interiors were polished to mirror smoothness through techniques that remain mysterious even today. These artifacts entered museum collections quietly, labelled cautiously as unattributed, or filed away in storage rooms where they couldn't challenge established narratives. Others vanished entirely into private collections, their existence now known only through fragmentary documentation. In the 1930s, excavators near ancient Tanis uncovered megalithic stonework composed of blocks far larger than anything attributed to early Egyptian construction. The stones showed erosion patterns consistent with exposure to desert conditions thousands of years before the region's documented desertification. But when researchers attempted to publish their findings with appropriate dating, academic pressure forced them to revise their conclusions. The site was subsequently reclassified as religious ruins from the later dynastic period. All further investigation was prohibited under cultural protection laws that seemed designed more to protect narratives than artifacts. More evidence emerged from the Fayum Depression, where subterranean chambers were discovered filled with intricately carved artifacts beneath strata that predated known Egyptian civilization. One chamber contained stone vessels whose inner curvature matched the precision of modern engineering. Consultants from industrial firms admitted the level of craftsmanship suggested manufacturing techniques entirely unknown to archaeology. The response from academic institutions was swift and decisive. The artifacts were reclassified as ritual objects and removed from public display. Research into their construction methods was quietly discontinued. The most dangerous discoveries came in the form of protoglyphs, symbols etched into stone blocks, found deep beneath delta mud. These markings resembled early hieroglyphics, but displayed greater mathematical complexity and abstract thinking. They appeared to be thousands of years older than the earliest accepted Egyptian writing. The implications were revolutionary. If Egypt inherited its civilization from an earlier, more advanced culture, it would completely rewrite our understanding of how human knowledge developed. But acknowledging this would threaten national pride, academic careers, and the fundamental story of civilization that underpins modern education. So the evidence was quietly suppressed. Funding disappeared. Researchers were reassigned. The proto-civilization of the Nile Delta became another casualty in the war between discovery and acceptable truth. From these drowned European plains, our journey takes us to the windswept highlands of South America, where another impossible civilization left behind engineering marvels that continue to baffle experts today. High in the Andes Mountains, where oxygen thins and storms carve ancient stone, stand walls that modern engineers struggle to replicate. These aren't rough-hewn blocks stacked by primitive peoples. These are precision-cut megalithic structures with joints so perfect that you cannot slide a razor blade between them. Blocks weighing 50, 80, even 120 tons, fitted together with surgical precision that defies conventional explanations. The official story attributes these marvels to the Inca Empire, but the Inca themselves told a different tale. They claimed these structures were already ancient when their civilization discovered them. Built by an unknown people they called the First Builders, master engineers who possessed secrets of stone manipulation that had been lost to time. At sites like Sacsayhuaman and Ollantaytambo, polygonal stones interlock in earthquake-resistant patterns that have survived centuries of seismic activity. Modern stonemasons examining these walls admit they have no idea how such precision was achieved with supposedly primitive tools. The mathematical relationships between the blocks suggest the knowledge of advanced geometry and structural engineering that shouldn't have existed in pre-Columbian America. At Pumapunku, the mystery deepens into something approaching the impossible. Stone blocks display perfectly drilled holes with uniform depths and diameters. Grooves run across surfaces with machine-like consistency. The symmetry and precision found here exists nowhere else in the ancient world, suggesting construction techniques that conventional archaeology cannot explain. In the 1920s, German researcher Arthur Posnanski argued that astronomical alignments at nearby Tiwanaku indicated construction dates of over 15,000 years ago. His findings were ridiculed by mainstream academia, then systematically buried. When later researchers attempted to verify his astronomical calculations, they were denied permits for nighttime observations. Certain sections of Tiwanaku remain off-limits to independent researchers even today. The Suppression reached new heights in 1997, when Peruvian archaeologists uncovered precisely cut stone tunnels beneath Sacsayhuaman, tunnels that descended far below the accepted Inca construction layers. The discovery was announced briefly in local media, then abruptly withdrawn. Research teams were reassigned to other projects. The tunnels themselves were sealed with concrete. Whistleblowers from within the project claimed that the deeper chambers contained artifacts unlike anything attributed to known Andean cultures. Metal alloys that didn't match historical metallurgy, tool marks suggesting advanced manufacturing techniques, evidence of a technological sophistication that predated Inca civilization by thousands of years. These claims were never officially investigated. The researchers who made them found their careers systematically destroyed. The message was clear. Some discoveries are too dangerous to acknowledge publicly. What humanity lost when these master engineers vanished represents one of the greatest tragedies in technological history. Construction techniques that could create earthquake-proof buildings, methods of moving massive stones without modern machinery, architectural knowledge that could revolutionize how we build in seismically active regions. From the buried cities of Africa, we travel to the flooded plains of Eastern Europe, where another catastrophic deluge erased a civilization so completely that only myths remember its existence. The Black Sea was once a massive freshwater lake surrounded by fertile valleys and thriving settlements. But around 5,600 BC, a catastrophic flood burst through the Bosporus Strait, transforming the lake into the saltwater sea we know today. This wasn't just a geological event. It was one of the most devastating disasters in human prehistory, erasing an advanced civilization so thoroughly that academia pretends it never existed. Deep-sea exploration of the Black Sea shelf in the late 1990s revealed collapsed wooden structures preserved in the oxygen-free depths. The preservation was so perfect that timber looked freshly cut after thousands of years underwater. Initial reports described straight walls, door frames, and geometric flooring that indicated sophisticated construction techniques. But as soon as these findings reached the media, government agencies intervened with brutal efficiency. Research funding evaporated overnight. Team members left the project under mysterious circumstances, many citing institutional pressure to abandon their work. The narrative was quickly sterilized. This was a geological event, not a cultural catastrophe. Private expeditions that continued the research reported even more extraordinary discoveries. Stone anchors shaped like those used by Mediterranean sailors millennia later. Pottery identical to early Anatolian designs. What appeared to be the outlines of entire settlements extending across miles of the seafloor. Yet none of these discoveries made it into peer-reviewed publications. Photographs allegedly taken during these dives have never surfaced publicly. One diving team reported being confronted by naval vessels and ordered to cease documentation of the site. The official explanation was safety concerns, but the timing suggested something far more deliberate. The implications of a pre-flood Black Sea civilization are staggering. If agricultural and architectural knowledge spread outward from this drowned center into the Balkans, Caucasus, and Middle East after the disaster, it would explain the sudden appearance of advanced farming communities across Europe around 5,500 BC. But this explanation is politically inconvenient because it challenges established migration patterns and cultural development theories. The flood itself was absolutely catastrophic. When the Mediterranean finally breached the land barrier, water poured in with the force of 200 Niagara Falls. In a matter of days or weeks, an entire world drowned. Homes, temples, workshops, early ports, all swallowed by the newborn sea. Survivors would have fled to higher ground, carrying only fragments of their sophisticated culture. The survivors of this aquatic apocalypse carried more than just their lives to higher ground. They brought architectural blueprints, agricultural techniques, and metallurgical knowledge that would mysteriously appear across Europe in the centuries following the disaster. Stories of great floods echo through the mythologies of Mesopotamia, Anatolia, Greece, and Northern Europe, all converging on this single catastrophic moment when an entire civilization vanished beneath the waves. But perhaps the most unsettling evidence lies in what divers claim to discover in the deepest sections of the drowned settlements. Stone slabs covered with inscribed symbols that bore no resemblance to any known writing system. These alleged protoscripts were arranged in complex sequences that suggested sophisticated communication methods thousands of years before writing supposedly developed. The slabs themselves have since disappeared into private collections, their existence now relegated to whispered conversations among researchers who dare not speak publicly. What makes the Black Sea deluge so threatening to established narratives isn't just the scale of the disaster, but what it suggests about the cyclical nature of human civilization. If advanced societies can rise to impressive heights only to be erased by sudden environmental catastrophe, it forces us to confront the uncomfortable possibility that this has happened many times throughout prehistory. Today, the Sahara Desert stretches across 3.6 million square miles of seemingly lifeless wasteland. But this wasn't always the case. 12,000 years ago, the Sahara was a vast green paradise filled with rivers, lakes, forests, and fertile plains that supported one of the most sophisticated early civilizations ever discovered. The Sahara Green Kingdom, as researchers privately call it, possessed advanced engineering capabilities, organized urban planning, and technological knowledge that predates Egyptian civilization by thousands of years. But acknowledging its existence would mean admitting that Africa hosted advanced cultures long before they supposedly appeared in the Nile Valley. When military satellites first conducted LiDAR scans of the Sahara in the early 2000s, they revealed shocking anomalies buried beneath the sand. Massive riverbed systems the size of the Nile, rectangular foundations stretching for miles, circular structures that matched fortified settlement patterns found in prehistoric Europe. These weren't natural formations. They showed clear evidence of intentional design and massive organizational effort. Within months of these discoveries, the scans were classified by military authorities, citing regional security concerns. Universities were denied access to the original data. Only heavily edited, low-resolution public images remain, stripped of their most compelling details. Archaeological expeditions in the Central Sahara during the 1960s uncovered evidence that should have revolutionized our understanding of African history. Polished stone blocks arranged in precise geometric alignments, tools made from composite materials that shouldn't have existed, artwork depicting domesticated cattle thousands of years earlier than the official timeline permits. But after political upheavals across North Africa, dig sites were placed off limits. Warehouses storing artifacts were accidentally destroyed in suspicious fires. Research reports were sealed or completely rewritten to fit acceptable narratives. Early European explorers described massive stone enclosures half buried in sand, with walls cut so precisely they fit together without mortar. One French geologist in 1933 documented a 40-meter canal system perfectly straight and leveled, showing clear evidence of advanced engineering. His official notes vanished from archives, and his published memoir was pulled from circulation shortly after release. The greatest threat posed by the Sahara Green Kingdom isn't just its age, but its implications for understanding African contributions to world civilization. If complex societies existed in North Africa before 8000 BC, it would mean Egypt inherited advanced knowledge rather than inventing it. This narrative is fiercely resisted because it fundamentally challenges how we understand the development of human civilization. The kingdom didn't fall to war or conquest. It died when the climate changed. The rains stopped. The lakes evaporated. The desert advanced year by year until entire cities were swallowed by shifting sands. Survivors likely fled east toward the Nile and west toward the Atlantic, carrying fragments of their advanced knowledge to seed new civilizations elsewhere. What humanity lost when the Sahara Green Kingdom vanished represents an incalculable tragedy. Advanced water management systems, early metallurgical techniques, sustainable methods for surviving environmental catastrophe, knowledge that could have guided our modern world through climate challenges, all buried under sand and institutional denial. As we continue our journey through these hidden civilizations, the pattern becomes increasingly clear. Advanced human societies have risen and fallen throughout prehistory, leaving behind evidence of knowledge and capabilities that challenge everything we think we know about our species' development. But the most shocking discoveries are yet to come. In our next segment, we'll explore a civilization that mastered ocean navigation when mainstream history insists no one could sail beyond sight of land, and uncover evidence of a vast maritime empire that connected cultures across thousands of miles of open ocean, millennia before such achievements were supposed to be possible. When most of the world was still locked in ice, a vast landmass connected what we now know as Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, and the Philippines. This wasn't a collection of scattered islands like today. This was a continent-sized tropical paradise that served as the heart of an advanced maritime civilization that mainstream archaeology pretends never existed. The Sunderland Empire, as ancient legends across multiple cultures describe it, mastered ocean travel at a time when official history claims humans barely knew how to build rafts. Yet their technological fingerprints can be traced across thousands of miles of Pacific Ocean, forming a trail of suppressed evidence that threatens everything we've been taught about early human capabilities. When sea levels were 400 feet lower than today, this drowned continent was a thriving hub of innovation and exploration. Satellite bathymetry has revealed the ghostly outlines of what appear to be massive river systems, harbour complexes, and geometric structures lying beneath the Indian Ocean. But these findings are routinely dismissed as natural formations by institutions that seem allergic to rewriting textbooks. Marine archaeologists who attempted deep-sea exploration in the 1990s reported discovering stone patterns and terraced structures beneath the Java Sea that defied explanation. One team claimed to have found a stepped platform 5 stories tall, perfectly preserved in the oxygen-free environment of the deep ocean. Their research funding was immediately terminated. Their underwater cameras were confiscated by authorities who offered no explanation for the seizure. What makes the Sunderland Empire so dangerous to official narratives is the timing. This landmass flooded rapidly between 12,000 and 8,600 years ago, precisely when global flood myths describe catastrophic deluges. If an advanced civilization existed there, the rising seas would have destroyed it almost overnight, forcing survivors to scatter across Asia and the Pacific with fragments of their knowledge. This dispersal pattern could explain one of archaeology's greatest mysteries: how boat-building technology, advanced agriculture, and complex languages appeared simultaneously across vast distances with no apparent connection. But acknowledging this would mean admitting that sophisticated maritime technology existed thousands of years earlier than textbooks allow. British explorers in the 19th century discovered carved stone blocks in Borneo that matched megalithic construction patterns found in Polynesia thousands of miles away. Those stones mysteriously disappeared during transport to London. A controversial Indonesian report from 1977 described submerged port facilities and harbour walls beneath the Java Sea. Within months, the lead scientist was reassigned and the report was withdrawn from circulation. Even today, obtaining permits to explore the deeper sections of these waters remains nearly impossible. The bureaucratic obstacles seem designed to prevent any serious investigation of what lies beneath the waves. The implications of the Sunderland Empire extend far beyond archaeology. If this civilization mastered long-distance navigation 10,000 years ago, they could have facilitated cultural exchanges across the entire Pacific Rim millennia before official history begins. This threatens the cherished narrative that civilization began in the Middle East and slowly spread outward. It threatens national origin stories. It threatens academic careers built on outdated timelines. Moving from the Pacific depths to the windswept plains of Central Asia, we encounter another civilization that threatens to rewrite human history. Scattered across the desolate steppes of Kazakhstan and southern Russia lie hundreds of enormous geometric formations visible only from the sky. These massive earthworks stretch across the landscape in perfect circles, crosses, grids, and spirals. Some formations measure over 400 feet in diameter, constructed from carefully arranged earth, stone, and packed clay. Their mathematical precision rivals the famous Nazca lines of Peru. But these structures are far older, possibly dating back 10,000 to 12,000 years. When satellite imaging first revealed these formations in 2007, researchers were stunned by their complexity and scale. The geometric perfection suggested an advanced understanding of mathematics and engineering. More disturbing still, many of the formations aligned precisely with celestial events, tracking solstices, equinoxes, and complex astronomical cycles that require centuries of accumulated observation to understand. This wasn't the work of nomadic herders wandering the steppes. This was evidence of an organized scientific culture that possessed sophisticated knowledge of astronomy thousands of years before such understanding was supposed to exist. But as soon as researchers tried to investigate these formations, obstacles appeared. Russian authorities declared many sites restricted military zones. Universities found their research permits mysteriously revoked. One geologist who published preliminary data about the astronomical alignments later retracted his own paper without explanation. Local legends speak of ancient skywatchers who built these earthworks to mirror the constellations above. Some formations appear to map the precession of the equinoxes, a cycle so complex it requires generations of continuous observation to track. This implies not just advanced knowledge, but cultural continuity across centuries, the hallmark of true civilization. When a research team attempted to excavate beneath one of the largest formations, they reportedly discovered evidence of sophisticated toolmaking and organized settlement patterns unlike any known culture in the region. Their work was immediately halted. Samples disappeared from laboratories. The lead archaeologist resigned, claiming before his departure that they had uncovered proof of an early scientific society that officially should not exist. Why would such discoveries be threatening? Because acknowledging an advanced astronomical civilization in Central Asia thousands of years before recorded history would completely overturn our understanding of where and when human scientific knowledge first developed. It would challenge national histories, academic careers, and the fundamental timeline of human progress that forms the backbone of modern education. The suppression of these findings represents more than academic politics. It's the erasure of humanity's earliest scientific achievements, buried under politics and institutional pride. Let's start our journey beneath the waves of the Pacific, where one of the most controversial archaeological sites on Earth lies submerged off Japan's coast. Deep beneath the crystal blue waters surrounding Japan's southern islands, marine archaeologists have discovered something that officially doesn't exist. Massive stone terraces stretch across the ocean floor, carved with geometric precision that defies natural explanation. These aren't random rock formations shaped by millions of years of erosion. These are the remains of what appears to be a sophisticated coastal civilization, complete with stepped pyramids, roadways, and architectural features that could only have been created by human hands. When divers first explored these underwater ruins in the mid-1980s, they found structures nearly 700 feet long, rising in perfect terrace steps from the seabed. The stonework displayed right angles sharper than any natural geological process could produce. Channels appeared deliberately carved to direct water flow. Massive pillars stood upright like ancient watchtowers, and entire sections resembled amphitheatres, with seating carved directly into the bedrock. The implications were staggering. If these structures were indeed man-made, they would have been constructed when sea levels were much lower, potentially 10,000 to 12,000 years ago. That would place their creation thousands of years before Japan's accepted prehistoric timeline begins. But almost immediately, the discovery faced fierce resistance from academic institutions. Universities refused to fund proper excavations. Government agencies issued stern warnings against describing the site as artificial. Prominent geologists who argued the formations showed clear signs of human construction found themselves mysteriously removed from research committees. One leading marine archaeologist publicly stated that existing academic frameworks simply cannot accommodate these ruins as evidence of early human civilization. Within days of making that comment, his statements disappeared from official transcripts, and he was quietly reassigned to other projects. Independent divers who explored the site without institutional backing reported even more remarkable details. They described narrow tunnels reinforced with uniform stone slabs, symbols etched into vertical walls that resembled early writing systems, and what appeared to be paved roads leading away from the main complex toward deeper waters. Naval sonar mapping conducted in the 1990s allegedly revealed these underwater roads extending for miles, with retaining walls still intact after thousands of years of submersion. Some sources claimed the sonar detected smaller stepped complexes at depths that would have been dry land only during the last ice age, suggesting a vast coastal civilization that once thrived along the Pacific Rim. Yet none of these sonar images have ever been released to the public. The maps remain classified, hidden behind national security restrictions that make no sense for geological surveys. The systematic suppression of this discovery follows a familiar pattern we'll see repeated throughout our exploration today. Evidence emerges. Initial excitement builds. Then powerful forces intervene to ensure the findings never challenge established historical narratives. What we've discovered today represents just the tip of an enormous iceberg. 10 civilizations that prove humanity's story extends far deeper into the past than official narratives acknowledge. Each discovery systematically suppressed. Each revelation carefully buried beneath academic politics and institutional denial. The pattern is undeniable. Advanced human societies have risen and fallen throughout prehistory, leaving behind evidence of knowledge and capabilities that threaten everything we think we know about our species' development. But powerful forces continue to ensure that this evidence remains hidden, protecting comfortable lies over uncomfortable truths. The greatest tragedy isn't that these civilizations were lost to time and disaster. The greatest tragedy is that they're being lost again, deliberately erased by those who benefit from keeping humanity ignorant of its true origins and potential. These 10 forgotten civilizations represent more than archaeological anomalies or academic curiosities. They're proof that human history is far stranger, far older, and far more sophisticated than we've been allowed to believe. From the precision-engineered stone circles buried beneath Turkish hills to the drowned cities of the Pacific, from the astronomical monuments scattered across Central Asian steppes to the megalithic walls of the Andes, the evidence is overwhelming. Each discovery follows the same disturbing pattern. Initial excitement, groundbreaking findings, then systematic suppression. Funding disappears. Researchers are silenced. Evidence vanishes into classified archives. The comfortable timeline remains protected at all costs. But why? Why would anyone want to hide humanity's true origins? Because acknowledging these civilizations would shatter more than textbooks. It would challenge national narratives, academic careers, religious timelines, the very foundation of how we understand human progress and potential. The greatest crime isn't that these advanced societies fell to natural disasters and climate change. The greatest crime is that they're being erased again, deliberately buried beneath institutional denial and coordinated suppression. Somewhere, in restricted facilities and private collections, the real story of human civilization sits locked away from the very people whose heritage it represents. The truth is out there, hidden beneath waves and sand and academic politics, but it's fighting to surface. And every time someone asks the uncomfortable questions, every time someone challenges the acceptable narrative, we get a little closer to reclaiming our stolen past. The question isn't whether these civilizations existed. The question is whether we'll have the courage to demand the truth about who we really are and how far back our story truly goes.